Here's a number I want you to sit with for a second. In 1976, if you worked hard and saved your money, you could put together a 20% down payment for a home in Canada in about 5 years. Today, that same task would take you 14 years. And this isn't just a millennials can't buy homes story. It's a sign that something has gone structurally wrong with how Canada's economy works. Because here's the thing nobody's talking about. The housing crisis and Canada's productivity collapse are not two separate problems. They are the same problem, and we've been paying the price for treating them like they're not. After reading this article, it prompted me to make this video. And let's start with a stat that floored me when I first read it. Real estate, which includes mortgage lending, agent commissions, rental income, and the estimated value of homes people own and live in, now accounts for roughly 13% of Canada's GDP. 13%. That makes real estate larger than manufacturing, larger than mining and oil and gas combined, larger than construction, and larger than healthcare. And yet, despite it being the biggest slice of Canada's economy, the real estate sector employs fewer than 2% of Canadians, which may be hard to believe because it seems like everyone's a realtor. But let that gap sink in for a second. No other sector in this country has the kind of disconnect between how much of the economy it represents and how few people it actually employs. Paul Kershaw, a policy professor at UBC and founder of Generation Squeeze, put it plainly. When an economy grows mostly by inflating the value of homes people already own, it's not actually growing in any meaningful way. You're not creating jobs, you're not building anything new, and you're just watching a number on a spreadsheet go up while the cost of living goes up right alongside it. And in British Columbia, it's even more extreme than Ontario. Real estate is approaching 20% of the provincial economy. Canada got rich on paper, but the average person got poorer in practice. So how does expensive housing actually kill economic productivity? Because that connection is not obvious at first, but here's how it works. Productivity, the real kind, the kind that raises living standards over time, comes from investment in machinery, equipment, and intellectual property. Think manufacturing technology, software development, biotech, advanced trades. This is what actually grows an economy in a sustainable way. But when housing prices go through the roof, all the money chases real estate instead. Banks prioritize mortgage lending over business loans because the collateral is safer and the returns have been predictable. During the pandemic, research showed Canadian banks were actively steering capital towards residential mortgages and away from business loans, prioritizing borrowers who were already rich in real estate equity over entrepreneurs who needed capital to actually build something. Individual households are doing the same thing. If you're pouring half your income into your rent or spending 14 years to save a down payment, you're not starting a new business. You're not investing in yourself. You're not buying equipment. You're not investing in anything that creates real value. You're just trying to keep a roof over your head. Researchers from Harvard's Growth Lab framed it this way. When housing supply cannot respond to economic booms, the gains from productivity do not raise living standards. They just get absorbed into land values. The city gets more expensive, but not better. And here's where it really gets damaging at the national level. Canada's most productive cities, Toronto, Vancouver, Calgary, cannot scale up because they can't house the workers. So when those cities get more productive, the gains stay trapped in the land prices instead of spreading out into wages and into the broader economy. We are a country that figured out how to turn growth into housing inflation instead of prosperity. And that's not the same thing. Now, here's a piece of this that does not nearly get enough attention. It's how we build homes in Canada. Think about how we build cars. In 1900, it was almost entirely manual labor. By the mid-1900s, we had factories, assembly lines, and automation. The cost of producing a car dropped dramatically, and the quality went up. Now, think about how we build houses. The construction industry in Canada has barely changed in the last 50 years. Most of it is still deeply manual, still deeply fragmented, and still done trade by trade on site instead of in controlled factory environments. Between 2020 and 2023, the residential construction workforce in Canada grew by 26%. More workers than ever, and yet productivity declined. More labor produced fewer completed homes per worked hour. Part of why this was possible for so long is that prices kept going up anyways. Developers could move product at a profit without needing to get more efficient, so they never did. Now that the market has turned, sales have dropped. New home starts in Ontario fell 13.3% in 2025 compared to 2024, And there's also a workforce cliff coming. About 250,000 skilled tradespeople are expected to retire by 2032. That's roughly 1 in 5 of the current construction workforce. Some developers are experimenting with modular construction and factory-built methods, and CMHC has said Canada needs to essentially double its pace of home building to address the shortfall. But scaling up prefab in Canada is hard because building codes vary so much province to province, and the industry is fragmented. The point is, the way we build homes is part of the crisis. It's not just policy. It's not just the interest rates. It's also that we've been stacking bricks one at a time while every other major industry modernized around us. This is the part that should genuinely worry Canadians. In 2024, a record 106,134 Canadians left the country permanently. This is the highest number since 1967. In just the first 6 months of 2025, another 54,530 people departed, the highest first half figure ever recorded. And this isn't just because we've cut back on immigration. Who's leaving? It's not random. 67% of Canadian immigrants are between the ages of 20 and 44. These are people in their most productive career years, and they're leaving. The years when they should be starting businesses, raising kids, buying homes, paying taxes, and building things. The Toronto District School Board is projecting 5,000 fewer students for the 2026-2027 school year. And that's not a small number. That's families packing up and leaving the country. And here's the cruel irony. Canada has spent decades and enormous public resources attracting and training talented people, both domestically and through immigration and world-class universities. International students come here, they get educated, they build networks, and then they can't afford to stay in the cities that they went to school in. So they leave. And everything Canada has invested in developing them goes with them. Vancouver and Toronto, two of the most expensive housing markets in the world, accounted for nearly half of all Canadian emigration in 2024. So the math isn't hard to follow. A professional making $120,000 a year in Vancouver takes home maybe $80,000 after federal and provincial taxes. Then after rent, groceries, transportation, there's almost nothing left to save. The same professional can move to the US or elsewhere, earn more, pay less taxes, and actually afford to build a life. So Canada is losing the people who would have built the next generation of our economy. And housing affordability is one of the primary reasons. So where does this all go from here? Well, the Carney government's most recent budget committed over $13 billion towards housing, including $1.7 billion in new transfers to provinces and territories through Bill C-26. The focus has shifted, at least on paper, from stimulating the market to actually building more supply, with an emphasis on non-market and cooperative housing outside of speculative market. The goal is not to crash home prices, which would create its own financial crisis given how many Canadians' net worth is already tied up in real estate. The goal is to stabilize prices by building a large enough supply of homes that are not purely dependent on speculation and bidding wars. Canada's share of non-market housing, things like social housing, nonprofit, co-op units with rents controlled by a municipal housing authority, is about 3.5% of total housing inventory. The OECD average is over 7%, whereas places like France is at 14% and the UK over 16%. We're well behind where we need to be. Paul Kershaw's argument is that any serious housing strategy also has to look at how banks lend. Right now, the system rewards channeling capital into existing residential real estate. Shifting those incentives even partially towards business investment would simultaneously cool speculative bidding and direct money towards industries that actually generate jobs and growth. And there's a compelling case that fixing housing has an enormous economic upside. Research suggests that bringing Canada's non-market stock up to the OECD average, which is the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, could boost economic productivity by somewhere between 5.7 and 9.3%, which translates to somewhere between $67 billion and $136 billion added to Canada's GDP. This is not housing policy, it's economic growth strategy. So this is an uncomfortable truth. A lot of Canadians got very wealthy off raising real estate values. And I'm not here to tell them that was wrong. The incentives were real and people responded to them rationally. But the system that made homeowners rich did not make Canada rich. It made Canada more expensive. It redirected capital away from industries that create lasting growth. It priced out an entire generation of workers, entrepreneurs, and family. And now those people are leaving. Many Canadian homeowners won, but the economy didn't. And that's the thing that needs to change. Whether it does or not, understanding why it happened is the first step. So if you are buying or selling and want to talk about what this means for you specifically, reach out. Happy to have a chat. And I want to hear your thoughts below. Leave them there, and I'll see you on the next one.